turn myself on. All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, December 19th. We will come to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll do a quick roll call. District 1, Jason Wienerman.
Jason Wienerman here.
District 2, Dave Bentrud.
Dave Bentrud is here.
Thank you. Jason Crone from District 3 will not be with us this evening. I'm Sean Blackburn representing District 4, and I'm serving as chair this evening. Jacob Hulk from District 5 is not with us. Rich Blankish.
Here.
Tara Ostendorf.
Here.
And Joe Persky.
Here.
Thank you. We will start this evening with agenda item number 1 is application to consider a conditional use permit request submitted by Jerome and Cindy Humbert of Paynesville, Minnesota, according to section 6.9.3E and 9.2 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439. The request is to expand an existing animal feedlot facility within 100 feet of a stream classified as shoreland in the Ag 80 zoning district. The property is in part of the west half of the northwest quarter of section 01 of Spring Hill Township. The property address is 31683 320th Avenue, Melrose, Minnesota. We'll do a quick review of the item, please.
Good evening. So, the applicant is requesting to permit some previously existing unpermitted structures. There's a 50 by 50 open lot that was roofed, a 50 by 55 open lot that was roofed, an 18 by 60 open lot that was roofed, and then he's also proposing to increase his animal units to 631. Let's see. Feedlot has been registered since August 10th, 2000. It has remained registered. The closest structure to the stream on the property, the reason that it's in shoreland, is number 9, which is one of the structures that needs to be permitted tonight, or permitted with this application. They are currently permitted for 468 animal units. Looking to increase that with some beef cow-calf pair additions as well as some beef steer additions. Let's see. For the already existing structures, number 9 and 11, they were previously permitted under an incorrect permit back in 2020. They should have been under a CUP. They were wrongfully issued a permit under just our regular construction short form permit. So we are correcting that tonight. That was a staff error that it was not found. The number 20 feedlot structure was not part of that. Roofing that was not part of that application in 2020. So that one's a new after the fact. And then, so 20, 9, and 11 are what's being permitted tonight, as well as the animal unit increase. The site was inspected on September 11th, 2024. They were compliant for water quality discharge standards. They were non-compliant for the unpermitted constructions. And then they were also non-compliant at the time for their manure record keeping. They have since submitted manure records and also a manure management plan. They have been reviewed and found compliant with that. So they have returned to compliance for manure. The sewage treatment system certification was received and approved on November 8th, so they are up to date with that. There are no valid complaints on file for this feedlot. The stream that they are within shoreland of, it's not on the impaired waters list, but it is a tributary to the Sauk River, approximately a quarter mile to the east. The surrounding properties are zoned Ag 180, are zoned Ag 80, and then there are 16 residences and 10 existing registered feedlots located within 1 mile of this feedlot. Nearest residence is about 942 feet to the southwest, and then the feedlot is on 320th Avenue. There were no environmental assessment worksheets, environmental impact statements, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permits, or state disposal system permits required for this feedlot.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll do a quick roll call of members who visited the site. Jason?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Dave?
Yes, I did.
All right. I did as well. Tara?
Yes.
And Rich? Yes, I did. Thank you. Applicant, introduce yourself, please. And
Mr. Chair, if I may just make a comment on the application in the packet. The owner's application for the CUP does need to be, or did needed to be updated. And so the application that he filled out was for the other buildings, not part of the CUP today. And so we did have him sign a statement, and just for the record, he's formally requested these buildings for the CUP. So,
all righty. So
just wanna
that's
make
been
that clear.
adjusted. Is there something in conditions with that refers to that or anything?
no, this was since the packet was sent out, and we have the signed statement with the
been
appropriate
amended.
request. So the notice that went out was appropriate, staff knew what was needed, and the staff report is correct.
All right,
It was
thank
just the
you.
applicant's application that was filled out.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Once again, your name and address, please.
My name is Jerome Humbert. My address is, I live in Paynesville, 28605 State Highway 55, Paynesville, Minnesota.
Thank you, Jerome. Do you have anything to add to the report or request?
Not really. I think they got it covered very well. The reason that we're doing this here is I have the extra animals that like to request for is we have animals on a farm we rent about 3 miles to the north, and it's getting unhandy out there. Every time we go there, we have to either move snow or the farm place is getting old, so the Ritchie waterers are breaking, they're freezing. The skid loader that's over there, it's part of the deal, but it's getting old, it needs work and that. So we'd like to bring the animals home. I like to bring them into these buildings. You know, number 11, 9, and 20, that's the reason I like to bring them home, get all their stuff, because we have to haul the feed over there. We have to haul them in their back. This way we'd have everything on one site, and we would just give up the rent on the other site. So that would be very handy for us if that would be possible.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or statements, or staff or applicant? Okay.
Numbers 8 and 17 were not here in red.
Number 8 and number 10 are being eliminated. Those are also outside of shoreland. No, those are outside of the 100-foot shoreland requirement for CUPs. Right.
Joe, did you have something?
Yeah. Back to staff, just question, so now everything is in compliance, is that what we're understanding?
The feedlot is compliant for everything except for these unpermitted structures.
Okay.
Yep.
And then as far as the manure records that were non-compliant, how long were those records about?
Staff reviews records for the previous 3 years.
Okay.
That's what's supposed to be submitted to our office when we review records. They also, as part of their MMP, they have the next year's proposed manure application as well. So in total, it's about 4 years reviewed.
Well, Jerome, I was out there visiting with you. It looks like you've got a good operation there, and you're trying to do the right thing. You just want to make sure, again, that we are doing the right thing. And, with that sensitive area in green, we want to make sure that protect that water as much as we can. So,
Absolutely.
all right. So,
Thank you, Joe. All right, now, this is a public hearing. We are open to the public. If there's anyone here from the public who wishes to address this application, please come forward. Is there any correspondence?
I didn't receive any
Nothing?
correspondence.
Nothing? Are you ready to move on then?
Motion to close the public hearing.
I have a motion to close. Looking for a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, just a quick question on number 11. So is it just, I mean, it looks like it's just a hair that's inside that tiny little bit's what triggering this. Okay.
Yep, number 20 and number 11 are just scratching that 100-foot line.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Anything more? If there is no further discussion, we'll go on to the findings of facts. Is the proposal consistent with the Stearns County zoning ordinance 439?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, I believe it is with sections 4.8, 4.14, 6.9.3E, and 9.2.
Thank you, Jason. Is there an environmental assessment worksheet or environmental impact statement, national pollution discharge elimination, or state disposal system, or any other permits required for this facility?
Mr. Chair, none are required.
Thank you, Rich. Does the proposal conform to the goals and objectives of the county comprehensive plan land use plan? I'll get it out sooner or later.
Mr. Chair, I would say yes. Specifically, the agricultural goals, there are several. Items 1 through 5 for sure, and then the agricultural use policies, items number 1 through 4, if that is sufficient for.
Thank you, thank you. Will the site configuration, number, and type of animals at this site and prevailing wind conditions impact any of the following areas? Traffic, public safety, schools, parks, or anything else?
Mr. Chair, the buildings we're looking at are just modifications to existing structures, so they shouldn't have any substantial impact to any of the following areas. And the additional units of livestock and animal units, it's a couple hundred larger, but they're going to be contained, so there should be no impact from that as well.
Thank you, Jason. Have all recommendations from the Feedlot Review Committee and Feedlot staff been reviewed? I believe they all have, haven't they?
I had hoped I had done a sufficient job.
That's your job, right? I'm sorry, I missed has information been provided regarding the impact of property values in the area as a result of the proposal?
Mr. Chair, none has been provided and most likely would not change.
Thank you, thank you. Any other issues pertinent to this matter? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
Just one issue. So for 2 of the units, just to clarify, it was not the landowner's fault. It was a staff error. So that's why we're coming to the after the fact. So it's not through the negligence of the landowner. It's an accidental by staff.
Mr. Chair, just to be clear, originally the open lots being roofed, yes.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you for
Thank
that
you for the
clarification. Thank you. And a motion, please.
I'd make a motion to approve the application for a conditional use permit.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
All right, thank you. I have a motion and second. All those in
Mis-
favor say
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, is that a motion with the 2 conditions that were proposed and recommended?
correct. I'm sorry, we
Okay.
forgot to mention that
Oh,
part.
I'm sorry, I
That's-
missed them here.
There are 2 conditions, correct?
Correct.
Yes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank
Good luck
you.
with the project.
Agenda item number 2 is going to be tabled, so we do need a motion to make that official.
Mr. Chair, so moved.
And a second. I have a motion to table and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. So we will move right on to agenda item number 3. Number 3 is an application to consider a rezoning request submitted by Barry and Tammy Hoekstra from Paynesville, according to Section 4.10 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439, to rezone approximately 6.64 acres from the residential 5 R5 zoning district to the residential 1 R1 zoning district. The property is part of the southwest quarter, northwest quarter, lying north of Breezewood Road and east of Tri-County Road in Section 31 of Paynesville Township. The property address is 31238 Breezewood Road of Paynesville. And a review of the item, please.
Okay, so rezoning 6.64 acres from R5 to R1. The intent is to be able to split one additional residential lot out here. Access is from Breezewood Road and Tri-County Road. It includes an existing building site that takes up most of the property. No setback impacts with the proposed rezoning. There are approximately 32 homes within a half mile of the property, and it's surrounded by a mix of rural residential lots and agricultural land. Lake Coronis is about a quarter mile to the east. Property is also surrounded by residential 5 zoning. It's not within any overlay districts or areas of concern. For base density, the R5 district just allows the one home that's out there now. By going to residential 1, technically they'd be allowed 6 residential dwelling units. But like I said, their intent is just one additional buildable lot. Paynesville Township did recommend approval of the rezoning. And that's all that I have.
All righty. Quick roll call of members who visited the site. Jason?
I did, yes.
Thank you. Dave?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. I did as well. Rich?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Tara?
I did not.
All righty. And Joe?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Applicants here at all? Please come forward. If you would have a seat and introduce yourselves, please.
Barry Hookstra,
And your address, please.
31238 Breezewood Road, Paynesville, Minnesota.
Thank you. And you?
Tammy Hookstra, 31238 Breezewood Road, Paynesville.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anything that you wanted to add?
It is still in process, I guess. The only thing that I would maybe like to add is perhaps a second building, like a shed, someday, but, a house and a shed. But yeah, just to get it rezoned for now would be the necessity.
Sure. Okay. Commission, questions?
So are we parceling off one R1, or are we dividing this into 6 R1s?
The request right now is just to rezone the whole parcel to R1.
Okay.
Their intent then would be to just plat it into 2 lots. So they're not intending on doing 6 lots out there, which wouldn't be feasible with the structures that are out there now anyway. Their intent is just 1 additional lot, but with their zoning district options, they have to request R1 to be able to do 1 more.
So with the 6 lots, there's going to be, 5 additional housing units?
Well, they would have
Not units, I mean,
the building entitlements.
entitlements.
Yeah, there would be, their current house would have 1, and then there would be 5 additional.
Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
I think my concerns would be the same as I think Jason's alluding to. And that is, I can very much support having 2 homes on this parcel, but I'd question putting 6 on this parcel. And so it's difficult when we go ahead and change the zoning, not knowing what's going to happen in platting, which way it goes. So that's just a concern, just the way we have it set up. So by all means, splitting it into 2 parcels, I think it's a good fit. But splitting it into 6 parcels is perhaps not what's desirable for the lake or for any of that traffic, especially coming out on the main road, correct? Yeah. So.
But wouldn't that be something that would be addressed if they were applying to plat
hopefully, but yeah, true, but we don't know if that goes through that way through plating. We don't know that, but we certainly would hope that it would.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
So you're asking for the lot to be rezoned to R1. Would you be amenable to doing a single R1 and leaving the rest R5?
Mr. Chair, that would be an option for them to just rezone part of the property.
Yep.
You know, if they just wanted to rezone a couple acres or something, you guys could make that recommendation.
Would that be something you would consider?
I think so.
We really just want the two properties, the one with our house on it now, and then to split off to build.
Right.
You know, we don't need 6 or 5 or whatever. We just need the two.
Mr. Chair,
Tara?
question on this. I think one of the concerns, and I think Jason, you started to bring it up, but when you rezone it and you have 5 extra building entitlements, those building entitlements have monetary value to people around you if they're also going to try to develop later on. And I think that's where I would be hesitant to do a rezoning when now there's just extra building credits out there for the next person that wants to rezone and transfer credits. So that's where I would be concerned.
So let me question for the applicants. Would you be comfortable if at the end of this process, the planning commission were to make a recommendation to the board to leave the majority as R5, but split off one for an R1? Would you find that acceptable?
Yep.
Okay.
Fine.
Jason,
Please,
Mr. Chair.
Joe.
I see what you're saying, but I don't know if we should word it that way. Because that way you'd still have one that would be R5 and you'd have one that would be R1. Okay? Would it be better to go ahead and make a recommendation that they be split into somewhat equitable parcels with the intent of only building on the two? Would that give them 2 parcels? Angie, would that give them 2 parcels that would be Angie, would that give them that be 2 parcels at R1?
I'm going to see if Heidi can understand your question.
We're not splitting the property. We're not designing a plat or anything tonight. So basically, if you wanted to recommend they get one more, then they would have to pick 1 acre here where they would likely build the house, and that is the area that would be rezoned to residential 1. And then at the time they go through platting, we would figure out where the lot lines would go and all of that.
Okay, so how do we change that or phrase that here?
Mr. Chair, but we don't want to give them just 1 lot at 1 acre. We want to allow them to split it up, perhaps equitable, so that they would have two fairly even parcels, correct?
Right.
Or do you want just 1 parcel at 1 acre?
So the way the property is designed, I don't think it could be split evenly. There's too many buildings on the main building area.
So you'd like to just cut off 1 area, approximately 1 acre?
Right.
Okay.
So we would, it wouldn't be, I don't think it's going to be a full 2 acres. It's going to be a little bit less than that probably, but we can't divide it equally.
And Mr. Chair, the new lot lines don't necessarily have to follow the zoning district lines. So if you could do 1 acre zoned R1 where the house is going to go, but then they can also have 1 acre of R5 as part of that lot. So the zoning district doesn't dictate necessarily where the lot lines need to be. It's just the residential density.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask, I'm curious, where do you plan on this lot?
Where was it? Somewhere over on this
Yep.
side?
So
The red button. So,
here, let me do it.
okay.
All right, so my intent was to try to make this because it's an R1, I was trying to go as big as I could because I figured that would be more appealing to you guys. But what I was intending was, the outside parameter, but then going straight across here and down. So it's going to be an L shape, just like this. House would sit right up in here, and then I, perhaps one day would want a garage or a building down here, which is 100 and some feet up in here. There is a hill right here, so, but that would be the ultimate goal. But no matter what, I guess if we could just get so that we could put a house up here, and then I can sell the inside corner to somebody else. So I'm looking for this, or we're looking for this outside L, is what I was hoping for.
Roughly how many acres is that?
My best guess is about 2.5.
Question for staff. Why can't they just split off that amount from the parcel? The current parcel?
They need the rezoning in order to be able to have the residential building entitlement, because they only are allowed the one home right now with the residential 5 zoning district. They're allowed one home per 5 acres. So that's why they need to rezone some of it in order to be able to have another residential lot out there.
Mr. Chair, could we make that recommendation to planning? To plating?
Mr. Chair, Angie Bergen.
We're changing, our topic is only to change the zoning.
No, I wasn't going to say that.
Okay, but I mean, I understand
What
that.
what I was going to say is I wasn't here last month, but I believe you did something similar in Fairhaven Township, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where you didn't want the whole parcel rezoned, but just part of it. And so then between the planning commission meeting and the county board meeting, we worked with the property owners to identify the exact area. And then that's what would go to the commissioners for final approval on the rezoning. So, in other words, we don't have to figure that all out tonight, and that will give the property owners some time to decide exactly where they think they want the house, and then that area would definitely need to be R1. Like Heidi was saying, the shed wouldn't even have to be in the R1. So.
Hi.
Staff, just so I'm clear, I mean, if they're given the ability to do the R1 and essentially have 6 potential sites, before they could do anything with those sites, they'd have to come back to the plating committee and all of that and get approval
Correct.
to do that?
Yeah, if they wanted to do a multi-lot development here, it would be coming back. They're going through plating committee, planning commission, public hearing, all of that.
So if
They don't even know if all of those lots would be buildable.
Right, that would all be determined during that process.
And if our taking action now to go R1, we're not giving up our right to say no.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. If you would just rezone the whole thing to R1, still any proposed plat in the future needs to show that it can meet all the zoning and subdivision requirements.
Mr. Chair. So then you're saying that we could cut off the parcel that they would like to build off, and that would be then zoned R1, and then the other piece would remain in R5? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Where are we at?
Mr. Chair, I just have one other question for the applicants. I was just curious, on the site visit, we saw that other utility building. Is that for cable or electricity, or what is it?
It belongs to TDS Telecom in New London. Yeah, it's their building.
For cell phone or for cable or?
Internet and.
Mysterious things.
Yeah.
Okay. I noticed there wasn't any windows. I couldn't look in. So,
Another question for staff, just on clarification, if we change it and that creates the additional building entitlements at that point, do they own 5 additional building entitlements then?
Yes, correct. They would have that many building entitlements on their property to do, I guess, with what they want.
Right. So my concern is if you start doing it that way, then everybody would start doing it that way, and now you have building entitlements that can be bought and sold and traded everywhere.
Potentially,
everybody
yeah,
do that?
there's some parameters on what, how they can be transferred, where they can be transferred to and whatnot, but, so it's not just a free-for-all transfer them around, but yeah, that's a possibility down the road.
And just for the applicants, this is, we're not talking about you right now. So because we're doing this, this is 100 years down the road that we have to look out. So this, we totally understand what you want to do, but we're just looking for the long-term potential for this park.
Can I throw it in there that, we are a quarter of a mile from the lake, and that would open up. Maybe I'm saying the wrong things here, but that would open up, the ability to sell, to other people all the way down that road if you were to rezone it. Not us, but I'm just saying, if you go a quarter mile down the road, there are all individual small parcels, around the lake. So I don't know.
Public hearing?
That's a fair point. Yes, this hearing is open to the public. If there's anyone here from the public who wishes to speak, please come forward. Was there any correspondence to share?
Nope, not with this one.
All righty. Motion, please.
Motion to close.
All second.
I have a motion to close and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Joe?
Chair, I think your point's well taken about having those entitlements available. With the availability to move those entitlements to other parcels, do they have to be abutting parcels, or don't they have to be relatively close? In other words, they can't move 2-3
Correct.
miles down the road, correct?
Right, we would be looking at potentially transferring to an adjacent parcel, or if they owned property that was not adjacent but under the same ownership for at least 3 years, then they may be able to transfer, but it's going to depend on what those properties are zoned. You can't transfer from residential to ag. That's not allowed. So there's different factors and things that need to be met if you are going to transfer. So it's
Right,
fairly
right.
limited.
Thank you. Anything more? We will move on to the findings of facts then. Is the proposal consistent with the Stearns County zoning ordinance 439?
Mr. Chair, I do believe it is consistent with section 4.10.1 of 439.
Thank you, Jason. Is there an environmental assessment worksheet, environmental impact statement, national pollution discharge elimination, state disposal system, or other permit required for this facility?
I think you're on the wrong.
I am on the wrong.
Yeah, those are the feedlot ones.
Just came out.
Not going to be that big.
It's not wrong script. Does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county? Please list applicable sections. Bueller?
Got two different sets, it looks like. Mr. Chair, I would say that it does specifically, under living goals, item 2, manage the impacts of growth and development on the county's rural character, natural resources. Number 3, support housing options that give people in all life stages and all economic means viable choices for safe, stable, and affordable homes. There are a couple other categories: agricultural, residential use policies, rural residential policies, 1 through 3 there. So there are several that seem to comply with our comp plan.
Thank you, Dave. Is the proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood? Why or why not? I believe it is compatible, even down the road, being as it's kind of in a transitional area. Anyone have anything to add?
And I'm just, those other parcels that you mentioned are smaller lot size that would seem to be consistent for the area.
Right, thank you, Dave. How has the applicant demonstrated that standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied? I think the applicant has shown that they want to do the right thing and go through all the proper steps, and I think that's a yes on that one. Other issues pertinent to this matter for the township, any input, federal, state, local permits, anything?
Township had a hearing and they approved.
Thank you, Rich.
We support the township.
Mr. Chair, also, the applicants were willing to knock it down to one R1 split off as opposed to the 6, so that when the motion is made, that could be a consideration.
All right, thank you. Anything more?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, can we go back to the site plan, the picture? You know, coming out to that main road,
The Tri-County or Breezewood?
the Tri-County.
Okay,
Is that a fairly highly traveled road?
yes.
Yeah. Is that, but that's where you wanted to have your access?
No, the driveway would go,
From Breezewood.
yeah,
Okay, that's what I was gonna recommend.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's where our current driveway comes into, is off of Breezewood.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Anything more? A motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we recommend to the county board rezoning approximately 1 acre of this to the R1 zoning district.
I thought we were looking at the L shape, 2.5 acres.
So we do the 1 acre R1, and then the remainder would be whatever the R5 category is.
Correct. Right, the lot would have a split zoning on it, which is fine.
Okay.
Do we cover everything in that motion?
I think so.
Does that compromise their building site?
Yeah, we'll just have to figure out how to draw it on the map and get a legal description for the 1 acre and just make sure it covers where they intend to put their home.
Okay, so they would be able to build on the R5 portion of
The home would need to be in the R1, so where
okay.
we'll figure it out on the map exactly where that would be for where they want to build their house, and then we'll need to get a legal description for that area.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I want to be generous enough to you folks, though. If we do that with just 1 acre, does that take away any possibility for them to put, let's say, a pole barn or another shed off of the 1 acre?
Nope, they can put a shed in the R5 area.
Okay,
So the R1 is just where the house needs to be.
okay. I didn't want to handcuff you, all right?
Yeah, appreciate that.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
I'll second Jason's motion.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your flexibility.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 4. Number 4 is an application to consider a rezoning request submitted by Kenneth and Ann Hansen of St. Joseph, Minnesota, according to sections 4.10 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439, to rezone approximately 10 acres from the Ag 40, A40 zoning district to the R10 Residential 10 zoning district. The property is part of the northeast quarter, northwest quarter, lying south of County Road 51 and west of 156th Avenue in Section 15 of Collegeville Township. The property address is 16055 County Road 51 of St. Joe, Minnesota. A quick roll call of members who visited the site. Jason?
I did, yes.
Thank you. Dave?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. I did as well. Rich?
Yes, I did.
And Tara?
Yes.
Thank you. Joe?
Yes.
All righty. Staff report, please.
Okay, so rezoning 10 acres from A40 to R10 to also subdivide one additional residential lot. Property is accessed from 156th Avenue, which is a township road. The area proposed to be rezoned consists of woods and grassland. There's no setback impacts with the proposed rezoning. There are approximately 65 homes and 2 feedlots with greater than 10 animal units within a half mile. Thompson's Garden Center is to the southeast of the property, and the property is surrounded by a mix of rural residential lots and agricultural land. Property is surrounded by A40 and T20 zoning. It's within the Avon Hills overlay. So it's also within the future land use map, shows it as the natural resources overlay. The land evaluation site assessment score was 45.6, which indicates it's not very suitable for ag purposes. Collegeville Township did recommend denial of the rezoning, and their recommendations in your packet. And that's all I have at this point.
Applicants here, please come forward, have a seat, and introduce yourselves.
Good evening. I'm Ken Hansen. This is my wife Annie. We thank Heidi and the environmental staff for gathering and compiling the information here tonight. And it's been quite a process since we started this in August. Kind of a brief synopsis of how we got here is we chatted with the environmental services staff concerning this property that we own and where it was located. And we attended Collegeville Planning Commission meeting in August stating our request. They asked for some time to research this, and that was okay with us. A couple of the members expressed the concern that if they were to approve this, it would be setting precedent for the future. And several of the other members understood the area and the density of the housing there and thought that it maybe made sense. So we said no problem with the time frame. And we attended Collegeville supervisor meeting a week later just to give them the information too and make the presentation with the map and show them where this was. And we didn't seem to get any pushback. They seemed to acknowledge that what we were talking about in that area, and with the dense housing and the commercial greenhouse operation down there, that the land use or what we're asking maybe made some sense. A week later, when we not a week later, but a month later, when we went to September planning meeting, the decision to recommend the request was denied based on not wanting to set precedent. These types of requests have been denied previously, approximately one a year. And at that point, there was 2 regular planning board members and the ordinance administrator there, but that was a quorum. So our request was denied at that point. But the only reason we got was that it would be setting precedent and they'd have to be looking at other situations. A week later, we attended the supervisor meeting and they agreed with us that setting precedent was not an adequate reason to deny. recommendation, so they sent it back to the planning commission asking for a finding of facts. And also that Jennifer from Environmental Services would come out to the next planning board meeting to discuss a request and the comprehensive plan. So then they asked us to make that request. We didn't think that was proper for the applicant to make the request of environmental services, but we did inform environmental services that the supervisors requested this, and they said they would discuss it and decide what to do about it. And from there, we went on to then the next monthly meeting of the planning board because the supervisor sent it back to them. And they did the finding of facts. And the chair read off the questions on the findings of facts. And we didn't hear any input from the other board members. And at the end of the reasoning that the chair put down for the findings of facts, she asked for a motion. And there was a long pause. And finally, one of the members said, well, this is hard, but I guess if I have to, I'll make a motion to recommend denying. And there was no second. The chair seconded, and then it was one by one. It was not a aye. It was hard for us because it looked like a struggle. It was a tough meeting. So from then, we went back to we were informed by the ordinance administrator that there had been a special meeting on this. So we went to the town board meeting then in October after the planning board had given their findings of facts, which I believe you all have. And at that point, at the township supervisor meeting, they then told us that they would, in their opinion, they would have to go along with their planning board on a decision. And I guess it was, there again, it was a tough thing because when we met at the earlier meetings of the town board of supervisors, really seemed on board and seemed like it made sense with the land, the housing density, and what we've done with the land, putting it out of agriculture into natural resources, which was recommended to us by the Department of Agriculture, Soil and Water Conservation folks. Also Pheasants Forever was involved. And then the DNR forester was directly involved in what would be suitable, how we did this. We had to put together, over a 30-year period of time, we had these conservation plans that we put together and what we did with that highly erodible ag land that goes down to the wetland. And so that's basically what we did. And as we went through the findings of facts, at the planning board said we of course don't agree with them, but is a proposal consistent with zoning ordinance, why or why not? The chair wrote, with regards to agricultural land and lease score, this request would be worthy of consideration. But because the areas in the Avon Hills are the conservation overlay, which would give priority to natural resources, that would be no. And our response to that was the natural resources in this property was what we put there. And so we think that the natural resources there should be taken into consideration in the decision, and not because it's in the Avon Hills, it's just automatically denied. And then number two, the proposal conformed to the comprehensive plan of the county. Yes for ag, but no for the SHAPE 2040 map. and we are not in a growth area, we're more restrictive. I was on the Collegeville Township Board for 22 years and was involved in the process of the comprehensive plan and the memorandum of understanding. And for ag, yes, but for no, the SHAPE 2040 map, when we looked at projecting county growth and land use, we're drawing circles and going out from St. Cloud and into the various townships. We're looking at, in our crystal ball, what we thought was going to happen in these areas. In Collegeville Township, setting out where it is, we aren't close to any communities, so there isn't any annexation issues or anything like that. So we were sold on this back when we were planning this and went through the zoning in the township and all this stuff. We were told that the Avon Hills, the overlay, the conservation overlay, would bring us the natural resources to the same value as ag land in our area, since there's so much natural resources and spotty ag land, that this would bring that up to that same level as value and would be considered as that. But when we did all the meetings in this comprehensive planning, the residents, it was important to them that the natural resources be given the same value or the same consideration as ag land, because the ag land, you could tell by our LESA score, is not the best quality ag land, and there's better uses for that. And natural resources is probably one. But in the Avon Hills, or this conservation overlay, the intent back then, and the other two supervisors are no longer with us, but our intent back then was what the residents wanted was that natural resources have the same value as the ag land. And that was important to them. But also that the landowners, understanding the situation, the ag land and the natural resources, that the landowners should have the opportunity to develop some of the land that both the township and the counties agreed isn't good ag land, should have an opportunity to develop that as long as it fits in with the neighborhood and the land use in the neighborhood. So that's kind of the SHAPE 2040 map as we drew these circles out from St. Cloud and going out. That's what was taken into consideration. And granted, we're guessing, when you go out to 2040, you're guessing to what's going to happen. We're seeing around St. Joe some of that's coming through. And is the proposal compatible with existing neighborhood, existing homes? Yes. There's 8 homes just on one side of the map, and that's in about 1,200 feet. And then there's 2 other homes around the corner, and there's a commercial greenhouse. So the land use is definitely residential and commercial. Now, given the facts, they predate our ordinance. They say no. Well, we can't ignore these homes along here. We just can't close our eyes and say they don't exist. Just because they predate the ordinance, that's the land use that's there. And the other tracts of land are large and contiguous. We do have we've got 3 farming areas right around us. So that's so. And then we went through the process, and then they cite section 410.3 of the Collegeville land. That's the 1 per 40. And the township would not be consistent with past practices. Well, as you can see, the housing, a commercial greenhouse, just down the road is 2 apartment buildings. And we believe that it would be consistent with past practices. And changing the population density, the plan would be to build a residence up into the wooded acre in the open field, the native grasses, right where that is, there's some most open spots in the trees that we planted, where the trees have died. So that would be the area that we are there. That's a good picture of it. That would be the area way up in the far end. Would be a home site, and that would be based on what's around, everything that's around, and it goes down into the wetland. And this planning we did was through Soil and Water Conservation folks, DNR, and we worked with Steve Selnow with the USDA to come up with this plan and then take this out of highly erodible ag land and take it out of production to protect the wetland and to make this area the way it is. And now the request was, we just want one dwelling up in there tucked back in the pines on the edge of that field, not visible from the road. And all we would want to be 2 or 3 acres, but we're told have to do a whole 10 acres because going from ag 40 to residential, there has to be. So that's the way it is. That's the way it is. We're more than willing to restrict the other, you know, if we could do 2 or 3 acres right up and can designate where it's going to be at. We're more than willing to restrict the other 8, 7 acres, whatever, so that we won't come back in a couple of years and say, well, now we want to put another house in there. That's not the case. It's not the intent. We're wide open to that. But the way it's worded is we have to do 10 acres in order for it to fly is make it R10. And we understand that this could be considered, okay, we're going to spot zone in here. And I guess you could look at that and say, well, I guess that maybe would be. But also if you looked at land use, and what's in there, what is this? Well, it's pretty much residential and commercial. So is that spot? So we don't think so. We think we'd be one site would be used to what's similar on the other side of the road. And meeting all the setbacks, you know, existing road is there, the infrastructure is there, wouldn't have any impact on the farming operations around. So that's just, and then going through the comprehensive plan and everything, you know, and what the land use is, we're thinking it certainly would fall within an area and within the comprehensive plan of the county, and that the township is in agreement with. And it wouldn't be anything that would interfere with anything else in the area. It would certainly fit in. And, you know, we look at this area in Collegeville Township in the overlay, and we looked at the land use, and we've just looked at on the land use map, residents felt that landowners should have the flexibility to use non-agricultural land, loan A40, for a resident if it's compatible with adjacent properties. Now that's what we heard from the residents when we had all these meetings on land use. So I guess what we're asking is that this be looked at based on the use of the land, what we've done with the land, and how it fits into the neighborhood. And the Avon Hills overlay, we do not believe forbids this from happening, because if you have more land and you start to join stuff together, if you have more acres, then you're allowed extra building sites. And what we're asking, we think is very reasonable, and we understand that this could be looked at as setting precedent, and then everybody's going to want to do it. And I guess looked at the area, and as you look at it, and what's the land is being used for, across the road, we think it's very compatible, and that's why we're here making that request.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Commission members, do we have any questions or comments for staff or the applicant? Nothing?
Mr. Chair, just looking at that map, where all those homes are across the road. Ag 40, according to this map.
Yeah. They're in an ag 40 zone.
They're in an Ag 40, so they were able to carve out individual lots for homes in Ag 40.
Mr. Chair, that would have been all pre-2000, so
Yep.
pre-A40.
Right.
But it's still zoned, currently
Correct.
zoned as Ag 40. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Joe?
Mr. Henson, how long did you say you've been on that property?
We purchased it in,
We bought the land in 1987,
Okay.
and we built the house in 1987.
we bought the land in 85, built the house in 87, yeah.
All right. Anything more? This is a public hearing. If there's anyone here from the public who wishes to speak on this application, please come forward. If you would stand at the podium and introduce yourself, please.
Yes, my name's Alan Schmitz, and I'm on the Collegeville Planning Board. My address is 27846 Sundance Lane, Cold Spring, Minnesota. And the meeting that Ken is talking about, that it was voted down by the Planning Commission, I was not able to attend that meeting. So I just wanted to share my thoughts that I am also against that proposal to rezone. I think it has a very strong potential to set a precedent in the township, in the overlay. I looked in the review of the SHAPE 2040 and the comprehensive Stearns County Comprehensive Plan, and it mentions the nature pillar, and it recognizes natural systems as critical infrastructure. To me, that means it's worth protecting. Collegeville Township is mostly covered by the Natural Resource Overlay that was established in 2010. The overlay was established after many years of public input and county meetings, and Ken touched on that. I don't know the exact ins and outs of those meetings, but the outcome was the conservation overlay. The request to rezone the R10 is against the intent of the Natural Resource Overlay to preserve the natural beauty of the area. Stearns County Ordinance 7.6.3 requires a minimum of 60 acres in a non-residential zoning district to subdivide for residential lots. So the intent is to have it somewhat tight, to have 60 acres to subdivide, but by rezoning and allowing people to rezone, that is kind of counter to what was set up. The request to zone, and is on the township level, the request to rezone is the first request to add a residential credit within the overlay since it was established. Historically, the planning board has used the R10, the residential zones, as for unique situations in the natural resource overlay that wouldn't increase residential density. And one of those examples was on Big Watab Lake, where they had a smaller lake lot, and it was too small for a home they wanted to build. And so we transferred that building entitlement to the other side of the road where they had property, and so then they could build a bigger home And we did that without increasing the density of residential homes. So that's where we have been using that R5 and R10. And I feel there's a strong desire by the majority of the residents in the township that they support the conservation overlay, because this is the first request that we've formally had to request rezone for additional residential homes. Collegeville Township is on record to recommend Stearns County deny the request to rezone, and I respectfully request that the planning board review the intent of the natural resource overlay and deny the request. Thank you. I don't know if you have any questions or of me or.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything more? And we have some correspondence as well, correct?
Yep, we got 5 letters or emails, which I shared with you yesterday, and you've got hard copies of, so I'll just summarize those now. First one from Merle and Ann Erickson. They support the request. No reason to deny the request, disappointed in how it was handled at the township. A new home will be tucked away from the road. From Alan Davison, opposed to the request. He provided a history of the Avon Hills overlay and actions that have been taken to preserve the area. From Tom, Shelley, and Ben Carlson, they are opposed to the request. Rezoning will set a precedent in the township. Fragmentation of the land will impact wildlife habitat. Avon Hills overlay is to ensure the rural character is maintained. From Peter and Barbara Gorger, they support the request. It's low-quality farmland. Another home would provide more taxes to the county, township, and schools. And from Mark and Joan Strobel, they are opposed. Township recommended denial. The Avon Hills overlay is to protect the natural resources in the area.
All right, thank you. Motion, please. Motion to close.
Do a motion to close.
Second.
I have a motion to close the public hearing and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Further discussion, ladies and gentlemen?
Mr. Chair, question for staff. So when we go through the findings of facts, there are the 2 questions related to consistency with ordinance number 439. We have both the standard ordinance, so the R10 districts, but we also have the conservation design overlay. Do we look at both of them? Do we look at one over the other? So if we were to say it's not consistent, just hypothetically, would we say it's not consistent based upon 439 7.6, which is the conservation design standards?
Mr. Chair, Member Wienerman, all of Ordinance 439 is part of your consideration, and not one section is given more weight than the other.
So we could cite different sections.
That's correct. And you can cite some sections that are in compliance and some sections that aren't in compliance. That's happened before too.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
Angie, do we have a diagram or picture of the overlay district?
I have one that's zoomed in, and then if you bear with me, I can probably pull up one that's zoomed out.
All right. I'm just curious, you know, how far it goes to the north to like 94, how far it goes to the east towards St. Joe, how far it goes to the west towards Big Fish Lake, how far it goes then to the west then as well. Just curious how big that whole Avon Hills area is.
Yeah,
defined?
Angie will have it up shortly, but it does cover nearly, I think, nearly all of Collegeville Township except for the south sections, south row of sections of Collegeville Township. And then it does extend up into Avon Township. And I believe in St. Joe and St. Wendell, it's only the properties that are owned by St. Ben's. You are not.
Hey Deb, can you come in here please and help me display the right screen?
Does it go as far as Big Fish, down to Big Fish Lake? Do you know?
Yeah, it kind of scoots around Big Fish Lake.
I'm just curious, you know, we agreed to put all those houses on around Big Fish Lake, and I'm just curious why this wasn't brought up when we did that.
And that's what my question is.
Oh.
There.
How did you do that?
I went on.
All right. So we got the map up there. You can see Big Fish in blue on the bottom.
Okay.
And so it's all the light green is the overlay. So that property you were just talking about is not within the overlay.
Okay, yeah, I see it's just down there in the gray.
So basically, in that area, nobody can do anything as far as building or adding or rezoning?
Well, the ordinance allows you to request a rezoning.
It
So
has
I
to
wouldn't
be a
say they can't
case-by-case
do anything.
petition.
Yeah, it's reviewed case by case. Yeah.
Anything more?
And I'm sorry, just could you clarify, Avon Hills? This is parcels in Collegeville Township. What is Avon Hills?
That's the name of the whole overlay district. It's the Avon Hills area. So that's everything basically in light green. And that was established when we did our 2008 comprehensive plan. The county established Avon Hills or Conservation Design Overlay is what it's called in the zoning ordinance.
So this isn't like a boundary issues between townships?
No, nope, it's just an overlay.
So quick question for staff on, I think it's your maps go north and south and east and west. I think it's on the east side, those smaller subdivisions, smaller housing lots.
Mm-hmm.
Those were before the overlay, right?
Correct, yep.
And just for clarification, when you do the overlay district, how does that process go? Do the landowners that are within Collegeville Township, do they have to, like, I think in the history it said there was an extensive planning process with public input and everything, so it's not like this just happened. People knew about the conservation overlay when they put it in place.
Mr. Chair, members, so as Alan Davison's letter to the Planning Commission stated and Heidi touched on, they had asked the Avon Hills Initiative. It was a group of people, including some township folks and some people at St. John's that approached the commissioners early 2000s. And it really, the county board at that time wanted to see how real their vision was. And so they made them do a lot of work. They went to the LCCMR and got funding to do some planning. It was I think as Alan indicated, a multi-year project. And then, as Heidi said, then we updated our comp plan 2 comp plans ago, and that's when it was their vision was realized, and the county board adopted it as the first conservation overlay in the county. There could be more if those initiatives came forward. Did everybody know? I mean, we don't send letters to every single property owner in the county when we're doing a comprehensive plan or a zone change, but we do a lot of outreach, education, as did the township. In this case, I'm pretty sure that the Hansons knew because he was on the town board. Not saying that's one reason or another to approve or to deny, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people knew about it.
This is my first experience with this overlay issue. But because the conservation overlay is there, it's not necessarily restricting development within that overlay area, is it?
Mr. Chair, Member Bentrude, not only for that reason, no. But Collegeville Township has indicated to the Planning Commission that because it's in that overlay, they don't think it should be eligible for rezoning. But they're allowed to build Hansons could technically build a feedlot or have a mining operation or.
I guess that was more or less my question. Okay.
Right. It doesn't preclude or prohibit any particular land use if I'm not mistaken.
But
Correct.
every change has to be applied for.
Right.
Right,
has to be permitted.
we would still apply, the underlying A40 zoning, for example.
Right.
They're still allowed those uses and development at those densities. It's just how it's developed is kind of what's different with the conservation overlay.
Generally speaking, maybe this particular issue aside, we have the ability to make variances on request, even though it's part of this overlay district.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, for staff, do we know, are there any magical floating building entitlements around that we are aware of?
I know after talking with Ken, they approached a neighbor to the north. They're unable to transfer any building entitlements because they're in a conservation easement, so they're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Not by the county, by the land trust. There's property to the south appears to have some building entitlements. Possibly another property to the north. I haven't looked into that one close enough. But that would be it for adjacent properties that potentially could transfer a building entitlement from. And I don't believe the Hansons have approached those landowners.
Okay. So, just again, hypothetical, if a motion's made to recommend the board that we recommend denial of the rezoning request, but they are able to pick up a building entitlement, they can then still, they can build on the lot.
Correct.
Well, and Mr. Chair, members, Heidi, correct me if I'm wrong, there's still a process by which they would need to go through a subdivision, and that would be a conditional use permit through the township, because all standard subdivisions in the Avon Hills require a conditional use permit. And the township has worked through that process over the years as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, one of the comments that I have just as a general consideration is when the township is the one that's already reviewed it and denied it, I have a hard time, me personally, have a hard time going against what the township has wanted to do, because those are the locals that have been elected to enforce their own ordinances, and that's just my thoughts on it. If at some point they wanted to change that or change how they were enforcing that rule, they could elect different township members. So that's just how I see it. But.
To build on Tara's comment, this is not, this overlay district could be removed if the folks and the county decide, the folks petition the county to remove the overlay district, the county can remove the district.
Correct.
And as has been pointed out, Ken was actually a part of the process in the first place, creating this overlay district. Correct? Further discussion?
Well, I think we're challenging whether this request is part of some approved comp plan, and there are points been made that it's not, but I could make points that it is. So I respect what the view of, you know, township officials, but this request for this parcel, given the surrounding neighborhood, seems very consistent to me. So I would struggle to vote against this request.
Mr. Chair, could we go back to the picture of the platted properties? And you look just across the road and see what it looks like. And is this consistent with the neighbors? Is it? You know, is there a compromise? Is there some mitigation? Mr. Hanson mentioned about protecting the entire piece from further future development. Could we put a conservation easement on the whole piece and just allow you to build on the 10 acres? I mean, that's one option. But, and Tara, I totally agree with you. If the township is saying that they don't want this, then, you know, are we moving forward in a direction we don't want to move with the township and not respecting their wishes? I agree, like, this is a hard one for me to look and process. That's why I'm trying to listen to you folks, because I'm going to probably support the recommendation that you folks make. And unless we want to throw it to an open public hearing to the board. Well, we can make a recommendation and still do that.
Well, we don't have to all agree.
Right.
Absolutely. We don't have to all agree.
No.
Yep. Mr. Blankish, I haven't heard from you yet.
Well, I got a little history here.
Okay.
And I've always supported this overlay district. It's a unique area in the state of Minnesota. That's why things started evolving on protection. And if you dig back far enough, at one time, state of Minnesota looked at Collegeville Township and Avon Township possibly being a state park. Goes way back. But I'm just you know, I've always been a supporter of the local government, and they're the people that have to live with those decisions. We sit here, we're not living there. We don't live with the impacts that take place. That's what's tough about this. So, from a personal standpoint, as I said, I've always supported the local government entity, be it a township or a city. That's all I have to say.
All right. Let's move on to the findings of facts. Is the proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance? Why or why not?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to use Angie's recommendation and split things. So I think it is consistent with 439 4.10.1. So I think it's consistent with that portion of the ordinance. I think it is inconsistent with the overlay section of the ordinance. If I read the number right, that's 7.6, I think, the natural resource overlay. So I think it's inconsistent with that portion of the ordinance.
Anyone else, anything to add? Does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county? Please list applicable sections.
I'm sorry.
The comprehensive plan?
Mr. Chair, I would say living goals, items 2 and 3. Number 2, manage the impacts of growth and development on the county's rural character and natural resources. 3, support housing options that give people in all stages of life and of all economic means viable choices for safe, stable, and affordable homes. And then under rural residential policies, item number 3, residential uses in the agricultural areas must embrace the comp plan future land use factors to minimize conflicts between adjacent land uses and natural resources.
Mr. Chair, not to confuse things, but we didn't include the natural resources section of the comprehensive plan. That could have been by error. So I can try to pull that up if you want to look at that, but that is the part of the decision that you're really talking about tonight if you were looking at that. So
On my, okay, all right. Well, it's,
So, Mr. Chair, under nature goals, I believe it is inconsistent with the nature goals. Number 1, preserve, restore, and protect important natural systems. And then also under natural system corridor policies that represent, number 1, representing natural systems as critical infrastructure. So I believe it's inconsistent with some of the nature goals.
Thank you. Is the proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood? Why or why not?
Mr. Chair, I believe that it is, given the properties and the housing across, just right across the street, literally. I believe it is consistent.
Mr. Chair, I will take the opposite tack. I believe it is inconsistent. While there is housing directly across the line, this is a substantial parcel. So if you look at the larger parcel in which this is located, this is an incredibly valuable tract. And by dividing this up, yes, we are linking it to one side of the parcel, but we are not paying attention to the remainder of the parcel. So I think we are in sync with a small part of the area, but out of sync with the larger neighborhood plus the overlay district.
Thank you, Jason. How has the applicant demonstrated that standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied?
Mr. Chair, I believe in this case, on the map they provided of the photo, they indicated they were going to put their housing unit in that forested block. So it will be hidden, if designed right, from the larger neighborhood. So the house will actually be hidden on the parcel.
Thank you, Jason. Anyone else? Other issues pertinent to this matter, township or city input, federal state permits, environmental concerns? Anyone?
They've been addressed.
They have been addressed. All right. I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll recommend we deny this request. We provide the board with a recommendation to deny the request for the rezoning.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Jason and a second from Rich. All those in favor of recommending denial of this application, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, quick, that was a 4-1, right?
That was correct. Dave Bentrood was the aye.
Okay.
and Mr. Chair, you did not vote.
I did.
Oh,
I
you
was
did.
an aye.
Sorry. Do we get roll call? Do we have it?
Do we need to do a roll call?
Okay, sorry. No, I just missed it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Don't take a roll call if you agree that's how it was, correct?
Right. Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
They
for your
will-
time.
And this will come before the board when?
The board hearing will be
January 7th, I believe.
January 7th. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 5, we need to approve some minutes.
I'd move to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Same sign. Is opposed? No. Motion carries. Agenda item number 6, other discussion. This must be you.
Officially, for the record, I would just like to thank Sean Blackburn for his years of service on the
Am I
Planning
done?
Commission. That's what I was told.
Whether you want it or
I
not.
had one more year.
Well, if you do, and if you don't, either way, I have cookies because
Oh,
we were told
Well, it is Christmas after all.
I don't know.
I will That's what I was told.
Angie, can I ask, what the terms are they 9 years?
3 3-year terms.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can't be reappointed to a partial term.
But did I appoint you?
Yes.
Well, this would be, Angie, this would be completion of my 8th year.
Okay, so Deb is weighing in here too.
Oh.
You had it figured out?
Well, my apologies
You can go more.
that you didn't know that you were done. I
Well.
thought someone had communicated that with you.
Check.
I wanted to go out with a bang.
What's the Irish?
I guess
saying?
maybe I did.
What's the Irish saying? May you die before the devil knows you're dead.
Right.
Yeah, we'll confirm that, yeah.
Okay.
But we can still have the cookies, right?
Ken,
Okay,
absolutely.
that's important.
All right, thank you.
That's
Thank you.
important.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
All right, we will adjourn.
I've
then.
got a couple things. Got good
Oh,
news.
Joe's got things.
Okay. The good news is that at the last board meeting, we talked briefly about positions, and we talked about per diems and compensation. And it was, I brought up the fact that you folks put in a good amount of time, but when we do our site visits, you're not compensated for your site visits. And so maybe that is something we should look at, is so that you'd get compensation for your meeting and for your site visits. Because you can spend a half a day easily on those site visits.
It's a lot of,
Yeah.
it's a lot of time.
And then also you got a lot of, if you look at your packet and you read your packet, you can do some thinking about what you're doing there as well. So somehow we're gonna maybe put the two of those out there.
Can't be a maybe.
Yeah.
Cannot be a maybe.
So, okay. So anyway, that's gonna happen. And then I also wanna mention, on the packets, if you look at the beginning of the packets on the covers, we still got Mike attending these meetings and we don't have Jacob attending these meetings. I don't know if you noticed that. Can you just pull up the cover page of the agenda? Is Mike on there?
Yep.
Yeah. So we should put Jacob on that. You know, okay. Other than that, Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
All right. Merry Christmas, and we are adjourned.